Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm sitting here waiting to be able to come back on again. Seems like I spent half my life waiting for my 10 hours to be done. Who sleeps for 10 hours? But anyhow, I had an interesting day yesterday. Don't swipe this away because I really think this video can help anybody. Do you feel like, I'm 61, do you feel like at your age, whatever your age is, that you had a great life? Because I've been doing this series for a little bit now on the secrets to having a great life. Now, I think all of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we've had various times in our life that weren't so great. And then we've had other times that were just phenomenal. But overall, because we know it's not always going to be great. There is going to be junk going on. It's not so great. But overall, have you had a great life? About 2 weeks ago, I blew out my right knee, which I've always had knee problems. I worked in a body shop, down on my knees on that concrete, all that stuff, you Superman, that's never going to hurt you. But I blew my right knee out about 2 weeks ago, and I ripped something in my shoulder and the inside of my elbow on my right arm, and it hurt. I mean, I had tears streaming down my eyes. It hurt so bad. I don't know what I tore. That's you young people, enjoy your youth, because when you get older, it's tough. It's easier to get hurt than it is to get healed. So anyhow, I'm out. What I do, I'm a truck driver, and for quite a while now, I've been hauling mattresses down to Florida, and I do 2 loads a week, and there's multiple stops until I empty out the truck. So I take these mattresses and I move them to the back, and then whoever's getting them takes them off the back and does something with them. So that's what I do. I drive, I park, I move mattresses to the back. My trailer holds about 150 to 170 mattresses, depending on the size and all that other stuff. So I had 7 stops yesterday. Started in Spring Hill, Florida, ended up in Cape Coral, Florida. Now, there was a 6-hour delivery window. They were all open from 10 to 4. And it was 5 hours of driving, because Florida has become the new New York. If you've driven in Florida, there's no way you're driving all that distance in any less time. So I had 5 hours of drive time, only 6 hours for a delivery window, and 7 stops and 150 mattresses back there. So I'm starting out the morning on my knees saying, God, I don't know about this. My knee is shot, my arm is killing me, and I just don't know what I'm gonna do. You're gonna have to do what you always had to do. You're gonna have to carry me through today. And I met this guy. He was sitting out in front of a liquor store. I was waiting for my store to open. He was waiting for the liquor store to open. I sat down, I started visiting with him and sharing with him for a while, and I started trying to tell him about Jesus. Now, right away, some of you guys will want to swipe this away, but just hang on a minute. I started trying to tell him about Jesus and, the hope of salvation, and, we all need to be saved. We've all broken God's law. I didn't get very far, and he just wants that liquor store to open, and I could tell he wanted me to go away. So I'm not one of those guys to try to force anything on anybody, because the bottom line is none of us chooses Christ unless we hear the Holy Spirit calling us and telling us, yeah, we need to do that, and we respond with a yes. So I did my job. I did what I'm supposed to do, and I moved on. The guy at this store came in 20 or 40 minutes early. So, all right, I got a 40-minute jump on everything. So I'm getting encouraged right away in the morning, and my third stop, and this is where I'm going with this story. My third stop is what I want to focus on. Now, how many of you have had an experience like, I'm going to give you probably one of my most prominent experiences. I was out on a boat, middle of the ocean. It was calm, flat, and the sun was setting on the water, and we'd had a great day of fishing. So it was one of those perfect days, you don't get them very often. It was one of those perfect days. And you could just feel the Lord in everything. I mean, I was just sitting there overwhelmed almost with the presence of God. So I've heard people say, well, I can go to church on a boat, I can go to church in a tree stand, I can have church in the woods. And so I think we all kind of have the idea that if we're out in nature, we tend to be able to sense God better, right? I mean, if we're honest with ourselves. But the prophet Elijah was needing to hear from God, and earthquake came and God wasn't in it, and a whirlwind came, God wasn't in it, and fire came rushing through, God wasn't in it, and he heard God in a still small voice. So that's where I want to focus this morning. So stick with me, please. It's easy to spot God when everything's perfect, because he's perfect. But do you know, God is in the chaos as well. God, anybody could feel spiritual if everything's going great. But you know, a true disciple, a faithful servant of God, he's going to sense God just as much in the middle of the fiercest storm. He's going to sense God just as much, in the middle of the heaviest battle. He's going to sense God when everything is chaos and blowing apart at the seams. He's going to know God is there. That's why discipleship is so important. And my channel is dedicated to discipleship. I didn't feel led to do this channel to try to, further your Bible knowledge in some extreme sense, or, to beat you over the head with stuff that, you're going to have to learn through experience. But I felt led to do this channel to help people in the area of discipleship, because I feel like in our modern age, discipleship has taken a huge hit. Jesus' last words to his disciples were to go out and make disciples. So that's really the mandate. That's the final command for all of us, to make disciples. But that is not an easy job. And I know, because I've been trying to do it my whole adult life, including trying to be a disciple. It's like everything in our nature fights discipleship. Discipleship, the core word is discipline behind discipleship. It really is the foundation of discipleship, is discipline, and we don't like discipline, do we? It's just not one of our yay things, is it? But it needs to be. It needs to be. Now, you're probably thinking, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is you get one shot through this life. And in the end of this life, you're going to face judgment. And you're going to be judged for what you did with this life, how you did it, the way you lived it, the laws of God that you've broken. All of that is going to come into judgment. So you get one shot. This life is like a giant algebra test. That's all it is. Pass, and you go on for eternity. Don't pass, and you're in trouble. Now, there's lots of views on hell. Let me set you straight on the views on hell. You can have all the opinions and all the views you want, but the only thing really you can base any of it on is the Bible. And so the Bible really does more talking about annihilation and the end of the soul and destruction. There's a couple passages in Revelation that do deal with, the eternal torment and stuff like this, but whether you believe that at death, after judgment, your soul's going to be destroyed, or whether you believe that at death, after judgment, you're going to be facing eternal torment, really doesn't matter. People like to make a big deal out of that, but, know what you know, do what you know, live what you know. And here's what we know. We know that this life is cursed. From the get-go, this life is cursed. We did that. God didn't do that. We did that. We all rebelled. All like sheep have gone astray. And that's what gave us this pitiful mess we've got going on in this world, is our sin. And even those of us who have found Christ, we don't live on an island by ourselves, do we? We still live in a world full of fallen folks. And we still struggle constantly with the deeds of the flesh. It's just what it is. So get over it. Just get over it. Accept it. It's a whole lot easier if you just accept it, because trying to buck up and be prideful about it ain't going to do nothing but get you tormented and destroyed. So in looking for God, like Elijah did, it's something that you have to be training yourself to do. So back to my story. I got a blown out right knee, and my elbow and my shoulder on my right arm, I tore something terrible in it. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to move mattresses, but they don't cooperate, and it takes pretty much all upper body strength to try to keep those things from flopping and flipping and getting them going where you want them to go. And some of them are light and some of them are ridiculously heavy. And I'm having a hard time getting this truck unloaded with this stuff I got going on. I mean, a hard time. So I get to my third stop, and this third stop is called Homemakers of Hope. Now, I knew it was some kind of charity thing just based on the description. What I didn't know is I pull up, they've got no dock. They've got 70 mattresses coming with no dock. And it's a big building. Outside, they got a box truck. And I had to pull in the parking lot. That box truck was back behind me. And out comes these ladies my age or older. So the whole thing's being run by basically retired women. And we got 70 mattresses to deal with. So they roll out this table, about 6-7 feet long, about 2.5 feet wide on wheels. And so we need you to stack these mattresses on this table. I'm like, ouch. Okay. Now, I didn't let them see that. I said, okay, y'all got it, because I already felt bad. I couldn't just jump down and carry them all in for them. But I'm having several thoughts going on right now. Number one, I got 70 mattresses. I've got this narrow window that I got to get these things off, or I'm going to be stuck spending the night somewhere down in South Florida and not getting back home. All this is racing through my head. I'm throbbing. My parts are throbbing already because I'd already unloaded 2 stops. And so I'm having this moment inside. I'm real good at hiding what's going on the inside. Well, on the outside, I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. But I'm thinking, oh my Lord, I am in trouble. You're going to have to carry me again as usual. So we're doing this, all right? And I noticed the writing on the side of this van or this box truck of theirs, and it says, no child should have to sleep on the floor. So this is a group of older ladies getting together, trying to get people beds for free. And the first thing I'm thinking is, where are the guys? You know, how come there's no older guys? You know, there got to be some retired guys that could get out here and help these ladies. And then I thought about the guy in the liquor store, in front of the liquor store. That's why I brought him into the story. That's the thought that came into my head. Oh, most of those age guys are probably sitting on a bar stool in a tavern somewhere having a good old time, already left their wives and, you know, doing whatever. All this negative stuff starts going through my head. I have a real issue with men in our generation, and I'm just going to be blunt with that. I have a real issue with men. I believe that men are the core reason why our world is in the condition that it's in. I'm not going to go any further with that on this video because that's not what this video is about. But I'm thinking, where are the men? And I'm thinking, these women, oh my gosh, they're going to have a fit. You know, we're putting these mattresses 4 or 5 high, and they're trying to roll them up this incline into their warehouse, and I'm just feeling terrible for them, and I'm just thinking, oh wow, bless their hearts. Well, they were all wearing turquoise shirts, and on the back of those shirts said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So all this is going on while I'm in the back of this trailer, and I see God. I see God in the midst of all of that. He's getting me through this physical stuff. Those mattresses are coming off, and yeah, it hurt like a big dog, but they're coming off. These ladies are handling those mattresses. They're doing it, and it's all working out okay. And I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by the fact that why is it so hard for us to see God in the midst of trials and tribulations? You know, remember the footprints? If you ever seen the footprints plaque, you know, that the guy's going through challenges in life, and at the very worst, there's 2 sets of footprints, him and Jesus, but in the very worst times in his life, there's only 1 set of footprints. So he's asking him, how come you left me? I mean, look at what was going on around me, and it's terrible, and you left me alone. And the Lord looks at him and says, I didn't leave you alone. I was carrying you. That's why there was only 1 set of footprints. I was carrying you. Well, how powerful is that? So, as maybe some of you don't really know Jesus. Maybe you haven't come to that point. Maybe you just think it's another religion, and there's just too many religions in the world. And you're right, there are too many religions in the world. But Jesus is not a religion. Jesus is God in the flesh, came down here. He only dwelt among us for 3 years and changed the whole world, and is still changing the whole world today. Showed us how we need to live, and then paid the ultimate price, sin and suffering, and torture and death for our sin, so that we could be made free from the bondages of sin. That's not religion, y'all. That's relationship, because that's all God wants. He doesn't want our religion. He wants a relationship with us. That's why he created us. That's why at the end of this life, at the end of this algebra exam, he's going to take those who want to be a part of him to be a part of him for eternity. And those who don't get to not be. Well, that's what we all need to be doing. We all need to be telling people that. We have to, because we've been told to, because somebody told us. So maybe you know the Lord and you're watching this video. Let me encourage you. Do the works of a disciple. Exercise discipline. Look for God in the stuff that it looks like there is no God in it, because he's right there in the middle of it. And can you imagine God? Okay, God's sitting there and he's with Barry in that truck, messing with them mattresses yesterday. And I've had times in my past where I'd be all worked up and all mad and all frustrated, and I'd just be irritated and blown out. And I had a few moments yesterday. The lights, the traffic lights in Florida, oh my gosh, it takes me so long to get up to speed. I'm slamming on my brakes at a yellow light. I don't know how many times. I got so many warnings from my ELD yesterday from having to slam on my brakes because the light turned yellow. I probably spent 45 minutes waiting at lights yesterday. So yeah, I get my moments where it's like, you know what, Lord, it's time to just burn the world down. Let's just go home and be done with all this. I have those times, just like anybody else does. But overall, I've been long enough to know that God is in the still small voice. Don't be focusing on the earthquakes and the fires and the tornadoes in life. You don't have to, because he's right there with you. So can you imagine God having to deal with us? Why are you sweating this? I'm right here. You remember Jesus when the storm's going on in the boat and the disciples had to wake him up and say, hey, we're dying here. I feel like I do that to God all the time. All the time. The boat ain't going to sink. God's in it. And even if it did sink, we're going to be okay because God's in it. Why can't we get that? Why can't we live that all the time? Knowing that I don't know if you've ever seen The Count of Monte Cristo, the movie. Good movie. If you haven't seen it, it's one of the few movies I would recommend watching. But in that movie, the guy's telling this young kid who's about to become a man, listen, the storms of life are going to come. And they're going to beat on you. But the sign of a true man, a real man, is to look at that storm and say, do your worst, and I'll do mine. Well, that's how we should be as children of God. Bring it on. Bring it on. Because all it does is push us closer to him and teach us more how to rely on him. That's what trials and tribulations are for. So go out there today and look for God, and you'll see him. You don't have to be on a boat. You don't have to be in a tree stand. You don't have to be walking through the woods. He's everywhere, all the time, doing amazing stuff. And he just wants us to be a part of it. So go be a part of it. Love y'all. Hope you have a truly blessed day. And Christmas is coming up. Do like them ladies were doing out there and find somebody that needs a hand up. Show them Jesus. Be blessed. Bye.